Good morning, good evening, good afternoon, everyone, wherever you are and around the world. Thank you for joining us for the last in the present series of Digital Asset Management Deep Dive webinars. Today, we're going to be looking at DAM's role in enterprise transformation. I'd like to introduce you to my regular team. I am Mark Davey. I'm the founder of IQ Equity and one of the co-founders of the Codified DAM Consultant. Fred, would you like to say hello?
Yes, thanks, Mark. So delighted since the beginning of this series to share with you. And so I'm the CEO of Active Consulting, working for customers on DAM projects, PIM and CMS. And I'm happy to share one of my experience today. So stage is yours, James.
Thank you, Fred. My name is James Rourke. I'm a data scientist and I've been working in the DAM industry for 7 years. I helped to build the Codified DAM Consultant and I've been working with Mark for a long time now. And pass over to Sean.
Thanks, James. Hi, everyone. I'm Sean Proctor. I've worked in digital asset management, product information management, and multi-channel publishing for many years now. I'm currently involved with DAM strategy and implementation, as well as back-end development on sandbox builds and proof of concepts. Thanks for joining us today. Mark?
Thanks, guys. So our agenda today, we're going to do a recap of where we've been. We're going to look at DAM as a building block for downstream integrations, applications, and automations. James is going to talk us through analytics and automation. Fred's going to talk us through a nice use case on e-retail. Sean is going to exploit and show you the dangers of the agencies relation, and it's time to disrupt that. Finally, James is going to go into artificial intelligence, machine learning, and we're going to give you a taster of when you get it all right, you move assets to entities. So hopefully for those of you who have been following us gruelly through these last 5 webinars, you've taken note of our advice and looking to follow gap analysis, resource audit, which will help you build your requirements, show the faults and the timelines for governance, and I can't but help iterate once again that governance is the glue that binds the whole strategy together. Without it, everything else is pretty much going to struggle and fail and delay. These processes help you build the use case scenarios, and then ultimately you can take your gap analysis, resource audit, requirements, wrap it around governance, build good use case scenarios, and ultimately find the right vendor that's fit for purpose for you today and the next few years. So what is the true value of a digital asset? Is it any digital file with metadata within a controlled vocabulary and a sound taxonomy, maybe wrapped in an ontological structure of meaning? Well, the true value of a digital asset today and tomorrow is any digital file with metadata within a controlled vocabulary and a sound taxonomy wrapped in an ontological structure, meaning rendered in multilingual semantic schemas, and yes, built by empaths. 5 years ago, people laughed at me at that, but actually, when you look at today's modern DAM, you've got to ask yourself, does your DAM brain look like this? A digital asset is not just a binary piece of code that enables the ingestion, reuse, repurpose, and distribution of content. We can track, measure, and make better informed decisions. Indeed, the Lego block that is DAM enables us to build off our content models, looking at web content interactions, workflow, PLM and PIM systems, and digital rights management, and workflow, review and approval, and legal compliance. And of course, excuse me, we are seeing a big rise today with master data management, owning the reference data models, and DAM plays a huge part in that across the whole content lifecycle. So James, over to you.
Thank you, Mark. So today I'm going to talk about analytics, artificial intelligence, machine learning, and automation. And what I tend to find nowadays is that there is a desire for advanced data-driven functionality. However, there's also the perception that configuring such functionality is easy when in reality most companies would struggle. People want advanced functionality, dynamic interactive dashboards, automations, artificial intelligence, machine learning, but yet they still manage their metadata in Excel spreadsheets. Next slide, please. So reaping the benefits of such technology all stems back to metadata and the data model that you have in place. If you're not capturing data in an audit, how are you going to analyze it and gain insights from it? Without a control vocabulary, how will you ensure that data is consistent across the business and beyond? Without integrated systems, APIs, and a well-governed metadata management protocol, how are you going to automate functionality on your DAM system? And for most companies, a lot of this work is going to happen in-house. Pardon me. So we're seeing a rise in metadata-driven initiatives within companies such as MDM, data warehousing, and in some cases, semantic modeling. Fred's going to talk a little bit more to MDM in a minute. And these are all driven by taking time and putting in the resources to build a solid data model that's fit for purpose across the enterprise. But joined up thinking across the enterprise on data models remains rare in DAM. And such initiatives are often siloed for particular use cases. So you have to get back to basics to really understand the data in your company. And it's an iterative process. So it requires the input of several departments and often involves linking up multiple disparate data sources. You'll need to map metadata values between data sources. You may need to consider things like interoperability standards, or if you're really clever, semantic mapping. But a good start is just to map your metadata fields to standards, and this will assist in their machine readability, for want of a better term. Building a data model is like deciding on a shared language that your company can converse in. It's the vehicle with which you can address complex business requirements, and it facilitates metadata-driven functionality. Next slide, please. So analytics and insights are nothing new in DAM. However, we often find that DAM vendors pay lip service to analytics, and within this diagram mainly fall within reporting and analyze. Some also do a fairly good job of monitoring. Very few get to prediction and simulation. So this is where we're talking about using things like sentiment analysis to predict what customers might want before they even realize it themselves in some circumstances. In DAM, there's often a focus on global data such as downloads, uploads, logins, etc. And there's little thought put into collecting true insights. Granted, DAM isn't an analytics platform, and often there is specialist software that is better capable of producing meaningful insights. So as a customer, you need to think about where and when data is being gathered before you start to think about how it can be used. You might also need to think about the technology that vendors are using to facilitate data collection and process simplification, such as Elasticsearch and Hadoop, or other data warehousing software. So Elasticsearch is a good example of where monitoring and analytics can be turned into predictions. So data being gathered from search can lead to search efficiency improvements. Hadoop and Spark allow you to connect multiple data sources and use things like parallel processing to vastly reduce the computational power needed to query huge databases. And we're living in a big data world, so we're definitely seeing a rise in a lot of companies implementing Hadoop and similar systems. Few DAM vendors offer such deep insights out of the box. So it's important for you to ask what's available, what data they capture, and any integrations that they might have available for data analytics. And as an industry, we need to learn lessons from specialist sectors such as field sales. So effective field sales tries to learn from its successes and feed this back into the delivery of sales materials to its customers. What we hear a lot from companies is that they want to reuse, they want to repurpose, but there isn't a stronger feedback loop as you see in something like field sales as to what was successful, what specifically was successful about it, and how this can feed back into the creative process to mirror that success. So maybe there's an argument here for an enterprise insights team, one that's combining and aggregating all the insights from across the enterprise and getting really deep into the possible outcomes. Next slide, please. Pardon me. So automation encompasses a lot of what I said previously. It starts by building a solid data model, which can be applied enterprise-wide and can be understood or interpreted by all the relevant stakeholders. You need to understand the flow of data through the organization, which system contains a single source of truth. Obviously, we would say this is DAM, and how and where data is created and stored, and how it travels between systems. You need to make sure that you utilize things like APIs and interoperability standards to push, pull, and convert data between systems. In fact, it's always important to align your technological specifications with those of the vendors that you look at. And maybe consider employing a person or a team specifically to manage automation and data transfer at the company. Next slide, please. I'll pass over to Fred here.
Yeah. Thank you, James. So, and you will see that on my use case, I will try to more or less to jump from the analytics standpoint, which are very important. And so now today, I'd like to share with you the experience of DAM projects I've more or less since the last 2 years. Of course, it's always a DAM project, but it's more and more also a PIM project. And this graphic is the clear representation today of most retailers and brands as soon as they want to be in touch on all the different channels, communications, e-commerce, and etc. And that's new. And in the meantime, that's really challenging. So how you can figure out what is the place of that. And the first thing maybe I'd like to highlight is the fact that so many people try to find one solution to manage everything. And maybe the first thing you have to keep in mind is for such use case, the performance is very important. And in my experience, I know that a couple of vendors try to promote this idea, but the PIM system is not a DAM system. So reason why in this graphic you have a DAM as a foundation to manage all your assets. And we know and we saw during the last webinars that the assets today are very rich. We are just talking about 4K videos, about very large high definition files. In the meantime, by the organization, you have what we are calling a master data management, which can be a lot of things. For some customers I met, sometimes it's just starting from a FileMaker database. For bigger one, can be an MI system, ERP system. Today, we see more and more application like Salesforce, which is a CRM, but it's more and more a lot of things around. So at the end of the day, you have one point where you can trust the data of the organization. But most of the time, these systems are not really done at the beginning to share or to distribute this content. The reason why we have a PIM, and the PIM is just like a glue between the DAM and this and the MDM, and the PIM is really the perfect system to really to aggregate this information. So, and I see today with the customer I'm working with, it's coming from different sources. So you have a lot of data sources, and at one time you need to gather all in one place. You need to start building your own data model, which can be something big, because for example, with companies I'm working with, it's hundreds and hundreds of feeds. So what's the place of DAM at that stage? Of course, thanks to the API things, we can connect both systems between DAM and PIM. The DAM can push information, the PIM can retrieve some information, but at any time, the PIM for the asset is just linked to the DAM. And on the DAM side, we saw that DAM is an engine for your assets to be able to manage previews. But it's also the engine of your metadata, which is very important. And whatever the metadata you are using, standard, custom, AI, whatever, the DAM is the engine. But in the meantime, any end user would like to retrieve some assets from DAM with information in the PIM. So, of course, on my side, I'm not taking all the feeds of this data model, which can be 600, but just a few of them, just like the EN code, some global ID of products, some name of the products, but nothing more. And then the other challenge is really to syndicate this information from on the whole workflow, from the asset creation to the distribution. And CMS is also most of the time the portal of a brand. So in the next slide, what we can see, I just try to summarize and simplify. You have two main DAM systems in the one organization. So the DAM, where you can see we have a lot of stakeholders, you have agencies, a lot of suppliers. Of course, today, and especially here on the customer I'm working with, we try to, as we saw before, to make the right choice. So it means a great user experience, performance, ecosystem. And of course, if you want to engage the people, it has to be something very easy to use. So thanks to the DAM, all the people can collaborate. And thanks to the PIM, we have all the entities, all the business lines able to work the data of a product inside the PIM. And PIM and DAM can, after some dedicated workflows, and we have some very complex workflows there, because it's not simply a single metadata when you say it's done or not, because when you're looking at the business process mapping of the organization, it's more complex than that. It's a lot of milestones, different stakeholders with different roles. And that's one of the challenges, to be able to approve the assets between different people, to approve the data of the PIM, and then to say, okay, we can publish on the website. So today in this customer, we have, of course, tons of WordPress, but more and more we are trying to go on some more CMS Entreprise. And in the meantime, the job we are doing with the PIM is exactly the same with the CMS. The CMS is not really the place of your assets. I'm sure that everybody of you already tried to upload assets. It's just a wall of pictures. It's not really dedicated to very large images. And so we have exactly the same way of working with DAM. So this is a clear representation today. Two main systems, DAM on one side, the PIM on the other side. And definitely one of the best use cases to work during the last years. And in the next slide, I'd like to jump on what James were explaining regarding the analytics. Of course, the DAM system is not an analytics platform. But in the meantime, when you invest with a DAM system, most are of C-levels and are asked to get some return investment with a DAM. So a DAM system today is not something that you can, it doesn't take years to deploy. If you have a good strategy, as Max said, got the right governance, everybody working on the right direction, it's a 1 year project, more or less. But how you can prove that this DAM is super efficient and which benefits it brings to the organization. And reason why, since a couple of years, I try to enhance this feature, these capabilities, thanks to some third-party integration. And one of them is reason why I put on the slide is Sisense, a new company, a couple of years, of course, of experience, but they really achieve one of the goal and some dream of customers. And we are talking about BI, business intelligence. So the capabilities to finally to get information from all the sources, from any types of metadata, and even from a spreadsheet, and the ability to build what we are calling a cube, which is something like a small database. And thanks to this database integrating things to API in DAM system, you can really get some amazing experience. And we see more and more, it's very close as for example, also what Salesforce is doing as part of our intelligence. Or you can really quickly, in a very very fast way, see which entities in a workflow is they have some problems, as for example in the approval, some bottlenecks, in fact. And in the next slide, you will see finally the clear view of what we are doing. When what I try to, of course, to do every time with retailers. So I have to manage all the inputs of the data. We are bringing this cube, and then we are able to integrate. And it's a nice piece of integration. We don't have so many DAM systems today in the markets. And I would say that most of the time it's I would say it's a little bit boring because we just see who is doing what, when, etc. So we need to get more in 2020, and I think BI is one of the answer. So as a conclusion, in fact, for this use case, in the next slide, I just highlight finally a couple of bullet points. First thing, which is sometimes very shocking for me, is so many customers I see in France, but also beyond, in Europe, and even in US. Even if in US, I would say in UK, I would say most of the customers have a better knowledge of what a DAM is. But today, often I see so many customers with too many DAM systems. It's 5, 4, 5, 6, and etc. And in the use case I'm working with this e-retailer, it's more than 26 DAMs. Sometimes by large organizations, you have also SharePoint. And a lot of people, and especially on the IT, thinks that finally it's DAM, which is not really the case. Of course, you can get some very nice brown portal, but as soon as you try to make a search or to retrieve asset, it's just a nightmare. So it's definitely the right way, at least to minimize this number of assets, of silos, and just to get one. A lot of work has to be done regarding the metadata, which is very important, especially to get this information from a PIM. And the DAM at that stage has to be really integrating in the ecosystem of the organization from PIM, CRM. It's very important. Reason why the API is redriving the business in this such use case. And it's not so easy because so many vendors says we have an API race, you can do everything you want. Okay, so can you show me a couple of things? Because it's very complex and you need to spend the time close to some experts, sit down to be able to really to see what you need from this integration. So this one is very important. KPIs, of course, as I was talking. And the last thing I'd like to share is maybe something sometimes we are missing is all about the security. Really take the time, because too many, and especially for modern DAM systems, it's mainly all driven by API front end, some API first. So it looks like it's super nice. You say, oh, that's cool. Okay, it's nice, but you have to, when we're talking about to protect the brown content, it's all about also the security. And so really check that the security at the API level, which is very, very important. We see so many use cases between some different customers. The competition is more than some buzzword. That's true, and I see, especially in some automotive fields, or even luxury and fashion, we see so many people try to spy each other. So it's very important to protect your brown portal and to check the security. So this is one of the use cases, which is definitely more and more at the top of business requirements. And as you can see, DAM is very, very important for at the bottom line.
Yeah, absolutely, Fred. Just to harp back on the API side of things, this is where we run into customization and configuration. When an API is not built natively into the application, or the depth of the ability to go to the data level, the metadata level, can really impact the Lego building blocks in terms of what you want to integrate for upstream and downstream systems. Yeah, good point. Thank you.
Yeah, sure.
So, James.
Thank you, Mark. So we have mentioned AI and ML during the webinar series, and the in vogue functionality at the moment in the industry is auto tagging. A number of these vendors are providing services for auto tagging, and most of our 10 core vendors are experimenting with it or implemented it. But I think there are some issues with the functionality at the moment. Objectively, it's very useful, but it seems to me it could be made more useful if the machine learning piece was improved upon. At the moment, the vast majority of vendors integrate with external services. This can throw up issues that we've seen about the relationship that the customer has with these external services, and the fact that endless API calls for auto tagging can ramp up costs, license costs. The second is that by having it as an external service, the auto tagging doesn't really learn your specific data, as the data set that it's being trained on is actually the whole web, or as near as damn it's the whole web. The vendors who are doing really well here have machine learning technology within the product itself. So in this scenario, the machine learning can be trained on a data set of your own assets. It can add common tags that align to your controlled vocabulary. It can recognize people, places, etc. that appear commonly in your images, and so on and so forth. At the end of the day, there will always be a need for a human at the end of the process to green light things. But the more that training is brought into the process, the less human input that's required, and the greater chance for innovation in this area. So we see a huge opportunity for product-specific auto tagging, something that learns product data, dimensions, characteristics, etc., and tags suggested data specifically for product workflows. There are rumblings of such innovation from some of the big players, such as Amazon. There are also other benefits that are still rumblings around rights management with web crawling and digital watermarking in legal review. So that's mostly filling forms for government regulation. And then also in heritage museums, there's significant efforts going on here, and despite there being a lot of collaboration in this sector, the learning is yet to really be shared effectively across the sector. Thanks, Mark. I'll pass over to Sean here.
Okay, thanks, James. Okay, let's look at the agency model based around content creation and content delivery, and why it really needs to adapt and transform. So, like most dark arts, the agency model is about their knowledge and the quick acquisition of your company assets. Your brand logos, your stock imagery, style guides, photography fonts, all of which live on the multiple agency databases and repositories. But as companies become more data-centric, they will need to rely on their agencies to help them build more defined data strategies, utilising the real power of linked data and metadata. Content itself will need to have the ability to move through omni-channel delivery, adapt in a responsive way to various devices and become more personalised. So mandating your agencies to abide by your data models is the smart move. Next slide, please. By doing this, you reduce the load on your librarians, leaving them to focus on curating experiences and knowledge transfer, serving up the right content for the right audiences, and simplifying the whole life cycle for the creation of content. By making them the guardians of your creative data, you will both yield deeper insights, better optics and co-creation of the creative output. However, I want to put a big caveat here. Agencies have a purpose in that they work in the hive mind of your company's particular focus, and the zeitgeist lessons learned here are invaluable. That said, the content factory is here, and its purpose is to help humans produce better content with better metadata and knowledge. Content with metadata yields context, and contextually relevant content is and will always be a valuable asset. A strategy that maps content from idea through to archive, building a data bank around content use, reuse and repurpose yields significant analytic values across the content lifecycle, its creation and myriad of endpoints. Next slide, please. There are only so many document types, brand formats, and a governing culture that cannot be overcome in a simplified manner. Of course, agencies offer highly creative campaigns and tactics, and their value in the content operations pipeline cannot and should not be undervalued. Having this original essence is usually substituted at the content factory floor, but this model is exponentially in favour of the agencies and not their clients. Modern DAM systems allow the ingestion of source files as compound assets, such as InDesign documents and linked files. Well, this means that contents within these documents, although they maintain relationships with each other, in many instances create duplicate content, and finding this duplicated content yields several insights. How often are assets used and reused, or more importantly, recreated at the expense of the client, unaware of the value that already resides on the dam. Next slide, please. So, how can the agency model adapt to help with content creation? Firstly, templating the source files workflow brings innumerable benefits. It can save cost, eliminate time-consuming repetitive tasks, and offer graphic design functionality, making it easy or easier to create custom content for use across multiple channels without the need for in-depth graphics knowledge. Templated files already carry review and approval metadata, which obviously speeds up the re-review process. The curation of brand content across countries and regions is harmonised by the use of predefined variable data areas, and cultural and regional metadata is carried at the country levels. Next slide, please. And secondly, adding metadata to source files as a governed process also brings many benefits. Most modern dam systems allow for the automated ingestion of metadata directly at the upload stage through correct naming conventions, through customized XMP schemas embedded directly into an asset or multiple asset, which is what you're seeing on the slide, through custom tags and keywords, and through rights managed metadata. So, in summary, the reuse and repurpose of assets within the dam environment, incorporated with smart use of metadata, are two very good reasons how the agency model needs to adapt and transform. That's it. Thank you.
Well said, Sean. And it needs saying, and it needs looking at. Indeed, the content factory is here, and how the agency and client relationships shape and transform over the next few years is critical.
It's just like it's not having a go at the agencies. It's just how things are going to evolve, and
yeah, they have to.
By the need to adapt.
Absolutely. So here we're looking at the brain as a layer cake, enterprise data backbone, content engagement and management, through the other layers that we would expect to the major channels. With the webinars that we've introduced you, the 6 steps, we hope to move you from ad hoc, incipient, through formative, operational, and to optimal. However, there is a thing called context, the parts of something written or spoken that immediately precede and follow a word or passage and clarify its meaning. In fact, context is going to be the new king. Search engines understood identifying keywords alone was not enough. Instead, they needed to understand how the data was related, both with the same site and throughout the web. This is where the most important change within the search landscape occurs, a progression from the ubiquitous keywords to the increasingly important entities. What we're looking at here is the next level of metadata. It's the contextual metadata, context as entity markup, which basically takes an asset to an entity. An entity is location, device, and activity aware. It's also a person. A person is a thing. Who owns a pair of shitty shoes, who seeks a new pair of shoes for walking. This is relevance as entity markup. And then we have a trust metric. We have our location, we have our favored manufacturers, and we have our offer. And it's distributed to the Netflix model, hyper individualized. So once you've got to optimal, you need to get to optimized, and this whole level of semantics, entity markup, linked data, linked open data, question layers, knowledge graphs, ontologies, big data. It's the reason the master data management is so heavily impacting the work of DAM. This is the tsunami, the third wave. where I actually believe web, the DAM, will become the beating heart of the semantic web. It's a big subject as well, and obviously, again, we've run over time. Apologies, ladies and gentlemen. We will be doing a follow-up. This video will be posted, this webinar will be posted, and we are going to have a deep dive final session, the 7th in our series, looking at DAM complexity in terms of the future state, semantics, optimal to optimized, from assets to entities. Hope our time with you has been very useful. We look forward to seeing you on the 4th of August for a 1-hour special.
Mark,
Yes.
sorry, the date's wrong on that.
Oh, what's the date? Can you remember the date?
15.
Yes, it's 15th of September.
15th of September. My apologies. 15th of September. 2020.
Otherwise we have to do a second webinar in a row.
Oh, okay, well, there we go. 15th of September, invites will be sent out. Thank you so much for your time today. I hope it's been useful. And guys, thanks for your
Thank you.
support.
Thanks, everybody.
Thanks, everybody. Bye-bye.
Thank you.